Zara Voss stood at the large window of her living quarters, looking out at the stars. Centauri Station spun slowly, giving her a new view of the galaxy every few minutes. Hundreds of ships moved in careful patterns around the massive space station. Some were small personal crafts. Others were huge diplomatic vessels from distant worlds. Zara sighed and pressed her forehead against the cool glass. At 28 years old, she had spent most of her life here, far from Earth. As the daughter of Earth's ambassador, she had grown up surrounded by aliens from 50 different worlds. To her, their strange appearances and customs seemed normal. She spoke 7 alien languages and understood the basic customs of 20 more species. A soft chime sounded from her door. Zara turned away from the window. "Come in," she called. The door slid open. Her father, Ambassador Richard Voss, walked in. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. His formal diplomatic uniform looked perfect as always. "Good morning. Zara, are you ready for today's meetings?" he asked. Zara nodded. "Yes, father. Which species am I meeting with first?" Richard cleared his throat. "Actually, I've arranged something different. The son of the Missourian High Council leader wishes to meet you. His name is Zexatar. He's considered quite a catch among his people." Zara frowned. "Another suitor? Father, we talked about this." "This is different," Richard said quickly. "The Missourians control 3 trade routes near Earth space. A connection between our families would strengthen Earth's position." "Yes, I know." Zara walked to her desk and picked up a small device. She tapped it, bringing up a holographic display of her schedule. "Fine. When do I meet him?" "In 1 hour in the diplomatic garden." Zara nodded without looking at her father. Richard lingered by the door. "Zara, I know this isn't easy, but these connections matter. Earth needs allies. We're still new to the Galactic Confederation. Many species think we don't belong here." Zara turned to face her father. "I understand my duty to Earth, but I won't marry someone just for politics. They need to be someone I can actually talk to, someone who sees me as more than a political prize." Richard's expression softened. "I know, sweetheart. Just meet him. That's all I ask." After her father left, Zara changed into a formal blue dress. That mixed Earth fashion with galactic styles. She pinned her dark hair up and put on the translator earpiece that would help with any language problems. The diplomatic garden sat at the center of Centauri Station. It was a huge space filled with plants from 100 worlds, carefully controlled. Environments let desert plants grow next to water lily. Trees that would never meet in nature stood side by side. Zara spotted the Missourian immediately. Zexatar was tall and thin, with light purple skin that seemed to shimmer. His large eyes had no pupils, just swirling silver colors that changed as he looked around. Like all Missourians, he had 4 arms and walked with a graceful gliding motion. "Ambassador, Voss's daughter," Zexatar said, bowing slightly. His voice came through Zara's translator with a slight delay. "Your beauty is even greater than I was told." Zara gave the formal Missourian greeting, touching her right hand to her forehead. "Thank you for your kind words. I hope you're enjoying your visit to Centauri Station." They walked through the garden. Zexatar spoke about his home world, his family's position, and the trade agreements he helped manage. He was polite and clearly intelligent. After an hour, he paused near a small pool where fish from Jupiter's moons swam in lazy circles. "I sense you are not interested in my words," he said suddenly. Zara looked up in surprise. "I'm sorry?" "Missourians have mild telepathic abilities," he explained. "I cannot read your thoughts, but I can feel your emotions. You are bored." Zara felt her face grow warm. "I apologize if I seemed rude. Your accomplishments are very impressive." Zexitar made a gesture with his upper arms that Zara recognized. As acceptance. Perhaps I could interest you with a demonstration? Before Zara could ask what he meant, the Missourian closed his eyes. Suddenly, Zara felt a strange sensation in her mind. Colors and shapes appeared before her eyes that weren't really there. She saw beautiful landscapes from a world she had never visited. She felt emotions that weren't her own pride, hope, curiosity. As quickly as it started, the sensation ended. Zara blinked, feeling slightly dizzy. That was ... What was that? She asked. A small taste of how Missourians communicate among ourselves, Zexitar said. With practice, we could share thoughts and feelings without words. Our connection would be deeper than any human marriage. Zara tried to hide her discomfort. The experience had been interesting, but also invasive. The thought of sharing her mind with someone else every day made her feel uneasy. It's fascinating, she said carefully. Your people have amazing abilities. They finished their walk in polite conversation. When they parted, Zexitar took her hand in one of his 4 hands. I hope to see you again, Zaravos. I believe we could form a powerful alliance. An alliance? Not a relationship, not a partnership. An alliance. Later that evening, Zara sat with her father in their private dining room. Richard looked at her expectantly. Well, what did you think of Zexitar? Zara chose her words carefully. He was very polite and certainly accomplished, but there was no ... connection. At least not the kind I'm looking for. Richard put down his fork with a sigh. Zara, this is the 12th suitor you've met in the past year. The Vulcan warrior was too aggressive. The Trisalian philosopher was too abstract. Now the Missourian diplomat is too formal. Are you even trying? I am trying, Father. But I can't force feelings that aren't there. Zara pushed her plate away. Don't you want me to be happy? Of course I do. But I also want Earth to be secure. Every day, the Drakari push for humans to be downgraded to protectorate status. They call us primitive and unpredictable. A strong alliance through marriage would help protect our position. Zara stood up. I understand politics, Father, but I won't spend my life with someone who sees me as a diplomatic tool. There has to be more than that. As she left the dining room, Zara's personal device beeped. A message appeared, showing her. Schedule for tomorrow. 3 meetings with diplomats, a cultural exchange event, and at the bottom, a note about maintenance work being done in the human embassy section. Something about tomorrow would be different. Zara didn't know what, but she felt it. Maybe it would just be another day of diplomatic duties. Or maybe, finally, something would change. The grand hall of Centauri Station glowed with the light of 1,000 floating orbs. Diplomats from 50 worlds mingled under the vast dome. Music from different planets played softly in the background. The yearly Galactic Confederation Gala was the most important social event in diplomatic circles. Zara stood near the edge of the room, watching the colorful crowd. She wore a silver dress that caught the light as she moved. Several aliens had already approached her, making polite conversation before moving on. She smiled and nodded at the right moments, but her mind was elsewhere. Ambassador Voss's daughter looks bored. A deep voice rumbled near her. Perhaps human parties are more exciting? Zara turned to see High Commander Vrek of the Drakari Empire. He was tall with gray-green scaled skin and yellow eyes. The medals on his chest showed his high rank. Beside him stood a younger Drakari, male with similar features. High Commander, Zara said, bowing slightly. The gala is lovely as always. I was just taking a moment to observe. Vrek made a sound like stones grinding together. Zara knew this was a Drakari laugh. Allow me to introduce. My son, Kraz. He commands our newest battlecruiser. The younger Drakari bowed. I have heard much about you, Zaravos. Your reputation extends beyond Earth's small influence. Zara wasn't sure if this was meant as a compliment or an insult. The Drakari were known for their direct speech and military focus. They often looked down on their species, especially humans. Thank you, Commander Kraz. I hope what you heard was positive. Indeed, they say you are unusual for a human. More selective than most of your kind. Kraz moved closer. I find that intriguing. Zara took a small step back. I'm not sure I understand. You have rejected suitors from many powerful worlds, Kraz said. This suggests you have high standards. The Drakari appreciate high standards. Vrek nodded. My son would make an excellent match. The Drakari Empire controls 27 systems. Our military is the strongest in this sector. Zara felt uncomfortable. She could see her father watching from across the room. A connection with the Drakari would certainly help Earth's position, but something about Kraz's cold stare made her skin crawl. I'm honored by your interest, she said carefully, but I'm not currently seeking a formal arrangement. Kraz's yellow eyes narrowed. You reject me without consideration? I am the finest warrior of my generation. I'm not rejecting you, Zara said quickly. She finds you lacking, my son, Vrek interrupted. His voice had grown louder, drawing attention from nearby guests, just as she found the others lacking. Humans always think themselves special. Zara saw her father moving toward them through the crowd. This was becoming a scene. High Commander, please, she said. This is a misunderstanding, but Vrek was not listening. He turned to face the gathering crowd. Look at this, he called out. Earth sends its females to reject the best the galaxy offers. Is this how they show respect to the Confederation? The room grew quiet. Ambassador Richard Voss pushed through the final row of onlookers. High Commander Vrek, Richard said calmly. This is hardly the place for such discussions. When is the place, Ambassador? Vrek demanded. Your daughter has rejected suitors from 12 worlds. She finds fault with everyone. The Mazorian prince, the Vulcan warrior, now my son all, deemed unworthy. Aliens throughout the hall whispered to each other. Zara felt her face grow hot with embarrassment and anger. My personal choices are not a diplomatic matter, she said. Firmly, Vrek's yellow eyes gleamed, but they are. They show that humans cannot integrate with the greater galactic community. You think yourselves above us. The High Commander turned in a slow circle, addressing the entire hall now. I say this proves what the Drakari have claimed all along. Humans are too fractious, too difficult to deal with. They do not belong as full members of the Confederation. The room erupted in voices. Some agreed with Vrek. Others defended Earth. Zara saw members of the Galactic Council looking concerned. This was exactly the kind of incident that could damage Earth's standing. Suddenly, Vrek raised his hands for silence. When he spoke again, his voice was calm, but carried throughout the hall. I propose a challenge. A formal courtship challenge, as allowed under Section 12 of the Ancient Customs. He pointed at Zara. Any suitor who can win the approval of Ambassador Voss's daughter within 1 standard galactic year will prove humanity's compatibility with our community. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Formal challenges were rare, but binding under Confederation law. If no one succeeds, Vrek continued, the Council will vote on Earth's status. Perhaps humans would be better suited as a protectorate species, under the guidance of the Drakari Empire. Richard stepped forward. This is outrageous. You cannot use my daughter as a political tool. I invoke the ancient right of challenge. Vrek said, ignoring Richard. Does any council member object? The 5 Galactic Council members looked at each other. Finally, the eldest, a Trizalian with silvery skin, spoke. The challenge is recognized under our laws. if both parties agree to the terms. All eyes turned to Zara. She felt trapped. If she refused, it would look like humans were unwilling to follow Confederation customs. If she accepted, her personal life would become a galactic spectacle. She looked at her father, who gave a small, defeated nod. "I accept the challenge," Zara said, her voice stronger than she felt. "But I will choose based on my own criteria, not anyone else's." Vrek smiled, showing pointed teeth. "Of course. Your human standards, whatever they may be." He turned to the crowd. "Let it be known, the courtship challenge begins tomorrow. Any eligible being may present themselves as a suitor. The fate of the Earth's status hangs in the balance." The gala dissolved into chaos after that. Diplomats rushed to communicate with their home worlds. Media representatives pushed forward, trying to get statements from Zara and her father. Later, in the privacy of the human embassy, Richard paced back and forth. "This is a disaster," he said. "Vrek planned this all along. He knew you would reject Kraz." Zara sat on a couch, still in her silver gala dress. "I'm sorry, Father. I didn't mean for this to happen." Richard stopped pacing and sat beside her. "It's not your fault. The Drokari have been looking for any excuse to push Earth out of full membership." "What happens now?" Zara asked. "Now?" Richard sighed. "Now you'll be the most pursued woman in the galaxy. Every ambitious being with an eye on politics will try to win your favor. And if none of them do?" Richard didn't answer right away. They both knew what was at stake. If Earth lost its full membership status, it would lose its vote in the Council. Drakari ships could enter Earth's space without permission. Human colonies could be restricted or even seized. "We'll just have to make sure someone does," Richard finally said. "Someone suitable." Zara stared out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, looking like just another blue dot from this distance. She had never meant to become the center of a political crisis. Now the future of her world depended on her heart. "Tomorrow will be interesting," she said quietly. Jack Harlow wiped sweat from his forehead as he crawled through the narrow maintenance tunnel. The heat from the power conduits made the small space feel like an oven. He pulled himself forward on his elbows until he reached the junction box he was looking for. "Found it," he called back to his assistant. "Hand me the diagnostic tool." A young technician passed him a small device through the tunnel. Jack attached it to the junction box and frowned at the readings. "Just as I thought. The power regulator is shot. We'll need to replace it and reroute power temporarily." Jack had arrived on Centauri Station 3 days ago. At 32, he was one of Earth's best engineers, specializing in quantum propulsion systems. But right now, he was fixing basic power systems in the human embassy section. Not exactly what he had signed up for. He backed out of the tunnel and stood up, stretching his back. His work uniform was covered in dust and grease stains. He didn't look like someone who had designed the engines for Earth's newest exploration vessels. "We need to cut power to level 4 for about 20 minutes, Jack told the technician. "Let the ambassador's office know." The technician looked nervous. "Sir, level 4 includes the ambassador's daughter's quarters. I heard we're supposed to avoid any disruptions there." Jack shrugged. "Can't be helped. The junction needs replacing, or the whole system could fail. 20 minutes without power won't kill anyone." After getting reluctant approval from the embassy staff, Jack began the repair work. He removed the damaged regulator and started installing the new one. The job required precision. One wrong connection could blow out power to the entire human section. Just as he finished connecting the last wire, his communicator beeped. "Harlow here," he answered. "Engineer Harlow," said an annoyed female voice. "This is Zara Voss. I'm in the middle of preparing for an important meeting, and my power just went out. I was told you're responsible. Jack connected the final wire before responding. Yes, Miss Voss. Emergency repair to the junction box that serves your level. Power should be restored in about 5 minutes. 5 minutes? I needed to transmit important documents 10 minutes ago. Jack frowned at the communicator. I sent notice to the ambassador's office an hour ago. Someone should have informed you. Well, they didn't, Zara snapped. And now I'm going to be late for a meeting with the HFY delegation. Jack finished, sealing the junction box. I'm restoring power now. Your system should reboot automatically. There was a pause on the other end of the communication. Then, the lights are back on, but my data terminal is still rebooting. Give it 2 minutes to complete the restart sequence, Jack said. Standard protocol. I don't have 2 minutes. I need those documents now. Jack sighed. This wasn't his job, but he could tell by her voice that this was important. Where are you? I can come help speed things up. Residential Suite 4B. Jack gathered his tools and made his way to level 4. He found Suite 4B and pressed the door chime. The door slid open immediately. Zara Voss stood there looking stressed. She wore a formal blue outfit that was clearly for an important meeting. Her dark hair was pinned up neatly, but a few strands had escaped, making her look slightly frazzled. You're the engineer? She asked, looking him up and down. Jack was aware of how he must look. Dirty work uniform, tools hanging from his belt, grease on his hands. Jack Harlow, quantum propulsion specialist, currently fixing your power system. He stepped past her into the suite. Her data terminal was still showing a reboot screen. These older models take forever to restart, Jack said, moving to the terminal. But there's a bypass sequence. He opened a small panel on the side of the terminal and pressed a specific pattern of connections. The screen flickered, then came fully online. There, should be working now. Zara hurried to the terminal and began accessing files. Thank you. I have 5 minutes to transmit these reports before the meeting. Jack watched as her fingers flew over the controls. She clearly knew her way around the system. You seem to know a lot about data systems for an ambassador's daughter, he observed. Zara gave him a quick glance. I'm more than just an ambassador's daughter. I have degrees in interspecies relations and galactic law. Impressive, Jack said, meaning it. Sorry about cutting your power. The junction box was failing. It could have caused a bigger outage. If not fixed. Zara nodded as she finished sending her documents. I understand. I shouldn't have snapped at you. It's been a stressful week. No problem. Stressful is my normal state. Jack packed up his tools. If your terminal gives you any more trouble, call the engineering department. Wait, Zara said as he turned to leave. You said you're a quantum propulsion specialist. Why are you fixing power junctions? Jack smiled slightly. I was sent here to upgrade the embassy's defensive systems. But when I arrived, I found the basic infrastructure needed work first. No point having advanced shields if your power grid can't support them. That's very practical, Zara said, looking at him with new interest. I'm a practical guy. Jack shrugged. Not much for diplomacy or fancy talk. I fix things. Zara smiled for the first time. Sometimes fixing things is exactly what's needed. Jack was about to respond when Zara's communicator beeped. The HFY are waiting, she said, looking at the message. I have to go. Jack nodded and stepped toward the door. Good luck with your meeting. As the door closed behind him, Jack thought that the ambassador's daughter wasn't what he expected. Not stuck up or entitled, just busy and stressed, and surprisingly knowledgeable about technology. He didn't think much more about the encounter. As he returned to his work, he had no idea that he had just met the most sought-after woman in the galaxy. Over the next few days, Jack continued his work on the embassy's systems. He rarely ventured into the public areas of Centauri Station. He ate at the small cafeteria in the engineering section and spent his free time reviewing plans for the defensive upgrades. One evening, as he sat alone with his dinner and technical diagrams, a shadow fell across his table. "Mind if I join you?" asked a familiar voice. Jack looked up to see Zara Voss standing there with a tray of food. She wore casual clothes now, not the formal outfits he'd seen on embassy staff. Sure," he said, quickly moving his diagrams aside. Zara sat down across from him. "The cafeteria in the diplomatic section is full of people who want to talk to me. I thought I might find some peace and quiet here." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Popular, huh?" Zara laughed, but it sounded tired. "You could say that. You really don't know, do you?" "Know what?" "About the challenge. About why every alien on this station is suddenly interested in human courtship customs." Jack shook his head. "I don't follow station gossip. I've been too busy fixing this place up." "That's refreshing," Zara said. She took a bite of her food and looked at him curiously. "So, Engineer Harlow, tell me about quantum propulsion. It sounds more interesting than my current problems." And to Jack's surprise, she seemed genuinely interested as he began to explain his work. The news screens throughout Centauri Station showed the same images. An Aquari Prince performed a beautiful water dance in zero gravity. Water droplets formed complex patterns around him, catching the light like thousands of tiny crystals. Headlines called it the Aquari Courtship Display for Earth's Ambassador Daughter. Zara watched the replay as she walked through the main concourse. She had been there in person yesterday. The prince had spent weeks planning the display. It was beautiful, even breathtaking. But like all the other displays before it, it left her feeling empty. 3 weeks had passed since the Drakari challenge began. In that time, Zara had met with 47 official suitors from 22 different species. Each brought the unique abilities and cultural values of their world. Each tried to impress her in their own way. The Nexari ambassador had composed a 5-dimensional symphony that normal humans couldn't even hear properly. The Vortian general had demonstrated his courage by wrestling a dangerous creature from Mars. A Trisalian poet had created a verse that supposedly captured the essence of human emotion in alien terms. Zara appreciated their efforts. She treated each suitor with respect and kindness. But none of them seemed to understand what she was looking for. They showed off their special abilities or their wealth or their status. They treated courtship like a performance with Zara as the audience. She turned away from the news screen and continued walking. She had 30 minutes before her next scheduled meeting. Without really planning it, she found herself heading toward the engineering section. Over the past 3 weeks, she had met with Jack Harlow several times. Always in the cafeteria, always by accident. Their conversations were the only times she felt normal anymore. Jack didn't treat her like a prize to be won. He talked to her like a person. They argued about engineering problems, debated Earth culture, and shared stories about growing up. Jack still didn't know about the challenge. Zara hadn't told him, and he rarely checked the news. Part of her wanted to keep it that way. It was nice having someone who didn't see her as the center of a galactic political crisis. As she entered the engineering cafeteria, she saw Jack at his usual table. He was frowning at a tablet, a half-eaten sandwich forgotten beside him. "Problem?" Zara asked as she sat down. Jack looked up, surprised. "Hey, didn't expect to see you today." He pushed the tablet toward her. "I'm trying to integrate the new shield generators with the station's power grid. The connections don't match." Zara looked at the diagrams on the screen. "Why not use an adapter here?" She pointed to a section of the design. "That would work if we had the right parts," Jack said. "But supply shipments from Earth are delayed. Again. I could talk to my father about that, Zara offered. Jack shook his head. No need for special treatment. I'll figure something out. He put the tablet down and really looked at her for the first time. You look tired, Zara sighed. Is it that obvious? To me it is. Rough day? Rough 3 weeks, Zara admitted. I've had back-to-back meetings every day. Everyone wants my attention. Jack nodded. Important diplomat stuff, huh? Zara almost told him the truth then. But before she could speak, the cafeteria screens switched to a news broadcast. A Missourian ship had arrived at the station, larger and more impressive than any before it. The news anchor explained that the Missourian High Council itself was coming to present their case in the Voss courtship challenge. Jack stared at the screen, then at Zara. Wait, Voss, that's about you? Zara's face felt hot. Yes, I should have. Told you. Told me what? What's going on? Over the next few minutes, Zara explained the challenge, the Drukari ultimatum, the parade of suitors. Earth's status hanging in the balance. Jack listened without interrupting. When she finished, he whistled. Softly. So every alien on this station is trying to win your approval. And if none of them do, Earth gets downgraded to a protectorate? He shook his head. That's insane. That's galactic politics, Zara said. And what about what you want? Jack asked. Does anyone care about that? The question caught Zara off guard. No one had asked her that in weeks, not even her father. I want what's best for Earth, she said automatically. That's not what I asked, Jack said, his voice gentle. What do? You want for yourself? Zara opened her mouth, then closed it again. What did she want? She had been so focused on her duty, on finding a suitable match that would help Earth's position, that she hadn't really thought about her own desires. I want ... double quote. She began slowly. I want someone who sees me as a person, not a political opportunity. Someone I can talk to honestly. Someone who challenges me to think differently. She looked up and found Jack watching her with an expression she couldn't read. Before either could speak, Zara's communicator beeped. It was a message from her father, marked urgent. I have to go, she said, standing quickly. The Missourian delegation is waiting. Jack nodded. Good luck. Try not to let them read your mind too much. Zara smiled despite herself. She had told him about the Missourians' telepathic abilities during one of their talks. It felt good that he remembered Dot later that day. Zara stood in the grand hall again. The Missourian High Council members floated above the ground on gravity disks. Their 4 arms moved in complex patterns as they spoke. We offer an unprecedented arrangement, the lead council member said. A full sharing of Missourian technology with Earth. Access to our trade routes. Military protection from the Drukari. All we ask is your hand for our prince, Zexatar. Ambassador Richard Voss looked impressed. This was by far the most generous offer they had received. The alliance would secure Earth's position for generations. And what does my daughter get from this arrangement? Richard asked, surprising Zara. The Missourian seemed confused by the question. She would be elevated to royal status among our people. She would want for nothing. Except privacy of thought, Zara said quietly. The Missourian turned to her. Our telepathic bonds are our greatest gift. To share thoughts is the deepest form of connection. For your people, yes, Zara said. But humans value our private thoughts, our individual minds. The council members conferred among themselves, their silver eyes swirling. We had not considered this cultural difference, the leader finally said. Perhaps a limited bond could be arranged. The negotiations continued, but Zara found her mind wandering. She thought about her conversation with Jack, about what she really wanted. After the meeting, her father pulled her aside. The Missourian offer is the best we're likely to get, he said. Their protection would keep the Drakari at bay. I know, Zara said, but something doesn't feel right. Richard looked at his daughter closely. Zara, is there someone else? Someone you haven't told me about? Zara thought about Jack, about their conversations in the cafeteria, about how natural it felt to be with him. I'm not sure, she said honestly. Maybe, Richard sighed. We're running out of time. The challenge period is half over, and the Drakari grow more confident every day. I need to think, Zara said. Can you buy me a few days? Her father nodded slowly. I'll try. But be careful, Zara. Whatever you're feeling, remember what's at stake. As she walked back to her quarters, Zara passed a viewport. She stopped and looked out at the stars. Earth was out there somewhere. Billions of people who had no idea their future might depend on her choice. What was the right decision? Follow her duty and accept the best political match? Or follow her heart, which was leading her in an unexpected direction? Alarm sirens blared throughout the human embassy section of Centauri Station. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors. Embassy staff rushed in all directions, some carrying important documents, others helping to evacuate the area. Jack Harlow ran against the flow of people, heading toward the source of the problem. His communicator buzzed constantly with emergency messages. Main power coupling has failed, a voice reported. Backup systems not responding. I'm on my way, Jack replied. Keep everyone clear of Section 5. The embassy's power systems had been giving him trouble for weeks. He had warned about the outdated infrastructure, but the replacement parts from Earth still hadn't arrived. Now they had a full system failure during the most important diplomatic crisis in years. Jack reached the main engineering room and found chaos. Smoke filled the air. Warning lights flashed on every control panel. 2 technicians were trying to contain the damage, but they looked overwhelmed. Report, Jack said, grabbing a toolkit. Power surge from the station's main grid, one technician explained. The old coupling couldn't handle it. We're losing all systems communications, life support, everything. Jack quickly assessed the situation. The embassy needed power restored immediately. Without it, all the diplomatic work would stop. The Drakari would claim this was further proof of human incompetence. We need to bypass the main coupling, Jack said. Reroute power through the secondary systems. Those aren't rated for full load, the other technician warned. They'll have to work for now. Jack pulled open an access panel and began rewiring connections. This is going to get hot. Stand back. As Jack worked frantically to restore power, he didn't notice the figure who entered the engineering room. Zara Voss watched from the doorway as Jack's hands moved with speed and precision among the wires and circuits. Can I help? She asked, stepping forward. Jack glanced up in surprise. Zara? You should be in the evacuation zone. I know my way. Around basic systems, she said, picking up a tool. Tell me what to do. There was no time to argue. Jack pointed to another panel. Connect the blue line to the emergency bus. Then reroute the auxiliary power through the tertiary coupling. Zara nodded and got to work. They moved in sync, barely speaking except to share technical information. The technicians watched in amazement as the ambassador's daughter worked alongside. The engineer, both covered in sweat and grime. After 20 intense minutes, Jack connected the final wire. The systems hummed back to life. Lights returned to normal. The warning siren stopped. Power restored, Jack announced. But it's a temporary fix. The whole system needs to be replaced. The technicians hurried to check all the embassy's functions. Jack turned to Zara, seeing her clearly for the first time since she arrived. Her formal clothes were smudged with dirt. Her hair had fallen from its neat arrangement. She had a streak of grease across her cheek. and she was smiling. "Nice work, Engineer Harlow," she said. "You too," Jack replied, genuinely impressed. "Where did you learn to do that?" "I spent a summer working on my uncle's transport ship," Zara explained. "I wanted to understand how things actually work, not just the diplomatic theory." Jack found himself smiling back at her. "You're full of surprises, Ambassador's daughter." "Hey!" Voice from the doorway interrupted them. "Zara, what are you doing here?" They turned to see Ambassador Richard Voss staring at them with a mixture of concern and confusion. "Helping restore power, Father," Zara said. "The embassy systems were failing." Richard looked from his dirt-covered daughter to Jack. "And you?" "Are?" "Jack Harlow, sir. Quantum propulsion engineer. Currently assigned to your embassy's systems upgrade." Richard nodded slowly. "Well, thank you for your work, Engineer Harlow." "Zara, the Galactic Council is meeting in 1 hour. They want an update on your decision. The challenge period ends tomorrow." Zara's smile faded. "I'll be ready, Father." After Richard left, Jack and Zara stood in awkward silence. So, Jack finally sighed. "Tomorrow's the big day." "Yes." Zara looked down at her dirty hands. "I have to choose someone or Earth loses its status." "And have you chosen someone?" Zara met his eyes. "I think I have." Before Jack could respond, his communicator beeped. More systems needed attention before the council meeting. They had to part ways again. 1 hour later, the Galactic Council chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from every species in the Confederation had gathered to hear the status of the Voss challenge. The 5 council members sat on their elevated platform. High Commander Vrek of the Drakari stood to one side. Looking confident, Ambassador Richard Voss escorted Zara to the speaker's position. She had changed into formal clothes, but Jack could still see a small smudge of grease near her ear that had been missed. Somehow, it made her look more real among all the perfect diplomatic faces. Jack stood at the back of the room. He wasn't supposed to be there. Engineering staff rarely attended council meetings. But he had to hear what Zara would say. "Council members, representatives of the Galactic Confederation," Zara began. "As you know, tomorrow marks the end of the challenge period. I have met with over 300 suitors from across the galaxy." The room was completely silent as everyone waited for her decision. Each suitor brought the unique abilities and qualities of their species. I was honored by their interest and impressed by their talents. High Commander Vrek smiled, certain that no suitor had been good enough. Earth would soon be under Drakari control. "However," Zara continued, "this process has taught me something important about humanity and our place in the galaxy." She paused, looking around the room before continuing. "While other species evolved specific abilities, telepathy, super strength, multi-dimensional perception, humans developed something different. We developed adaptability, the capacity to learn, to connect, to work together across boundaries." Zara's voice grew stronger. "The true test of any species isn't specialized adaptation, but the ability to adapt to anything. That's what humanity offers the Confederation." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Where was this going? "I have found someone who embodies these human qualities. Someone who solves problems with creativity and determination. Someone who sees me as a person, not a political prize." Zara turned and looked directly at Jack. "Engineer Jack Harlow represents the best of humanity. He doesn't bend steel or read minds, but he builds connections between systems, between worlds, and between people." The room erupted in shocked voices. Vrek stepped forward angrily. "This is outrageous. He's not even a registered suitor." The eldest council member raised a hand for silence. "Did the challenge specify that suitors must register formally?" Vrek's yellow eyes narrowed. "Well, no, but then the choice is valid," a council member said, "if she has made her decision." All eyes turned back to Zara. She nodded firmly. I have made my choice. Jack stood frozen in shock. This wasn't what he had expected. He wasn't a diplomat or a warrior or anyone important. He was just an engineer who fixed things. The council members conferred briefly and announced, "The challenge is complete. Earth will maintain its full membership status in the Confederation." The human delegation broke into applause. Freck and the Drakari delegation stormed out of the chamber. Other species began discussing what this meant for galactic politics. Ambassador Voss looked both relieved and confused. His daughter had saved Earth's status, but not in the way anyone had expected. Zara walked through the crowd toward Jack. When she reached him, she smiled. "Sorry I didn't warn you," she said. "I only decided for sure during the power crisis." "Why me?" Jack asked, still trying to process what had happened. "I'm just an engineer." "Exactly," Zara said. "You're real. You fix things. You see problems and solve them. You see me as a person, not a diplomatic tool." Jack looked at her, this woman who had just changed galactic politics because of him. "So what happens now?" Zara grinned. "Now we go get dinner in the engineering cafeteria. And then maybe you can tell me more about quantum propulsion." Jack laughed. "That's not much of a first date after all this drama." "I don't need grand gestures," Zara said. "Just honest connection. That's the most human thing of all." As they left the council chamber together, Jack realized that sometimes the most extraordinary thing a human could do was simply be themselves. And in a galaxy of incredible aliens with amazing powers, that was enough.